Team Mike's Bikes incredibly aggressive early on. We saw some major moves from these guys getting off the front, and that would cause them to have some company.
We are in Southern California today. This is the Redlands Bicycle Classic, and if you haven't heard of it, this is a very big race, a very big stage race. What is it, 5 stages?
5 stages.
That voice you hear is Chris Riekert, by the way. Welcome back, Chris.
Hey, guys.
And we're stage 4 here. This is the Criterium. You've had some seriously hard racing before this. Redlands, probably half, maybe even more of the people who are listening to this are going to know what Redlands means when they hear Redlands. But for those of you who don't know, it's a very difficult stage race won by the likes of Chris Horner, more recently, who won it in the last couple of years?
Phil Guyman.
Phil Guyman's won it a couple of times, I think. It's a big-time race.
TJ Eisenhart.
TJ Eisenhart's won it a couple of times. Once.
Once.
But
then he quit to go surf or find gems or something. I'm not sure. So, like, whatever.
It's a very difficult race. Like, we're at the point of this stage race where I would be supporting and handing out bottles at this point. Because tell me about the day before. Is a gnarly hilltop finish, right?
Yeah. So this is stage 4, and leading up to this, there's a phenomenal circuit race called Highland. It's a 2.5 hour race that's really fast. Got a super sharp hill in it. It's like a long crit course. It's so good. Then a time trial that this year in 2019 was like on a cliff face. I don't know. They made it on a windy cliff face. That's the best way to describe it. And then the day before this, the third stage is called Yucaipa, and it's a massive day of climbing. It's a 9,500-foot day. It's 100 miles in total length, and it finishes up a pretty famed climb down in Southern California called Oak Glen, and it's the day that the climbers really set the tempo for the GC.
And you guys are doing well, right? You had a 10th place.
Yeah, I did not have a 10th place. My teammate, Sam Anderson Moxley, was riding, I think, in 10th place on the overall. And so, that really sets up what our strategy is for this whole race, right? Sam had been riding out of his mind all year, and we knew that he was going to have such a good race. And so that was really our primary objective. We wanted to have a good result on the overall, and then we wanted to go for some stage wins and ride some breakaways as we could. As you guys will see in this video, like there's Elevate KHS, Action Hagens Berman, the teams that race here are big, and so whereas maybe in Northern California we get to field 6 riders and get to play that team role. When we're here, we really play second fiddle to a lot of these bigger teams, and so it changed our tactics.
And you were trying to get in a breakaway, right? I mean, you have a powerful sprint, but it's not a field sprint.
The few times that I've been dumb enough to sprint against real sprinters, it very much differentiates my sprint from their sprint. So on the day before, on the Wednesday, on Yucaipa, the big hilltop finish, I think I lost 2 minutes to the leaders. And so I'm still sitting in the top 20 on the overall, but nobody's really going to pay attention to me. If I go up the road, the leader, which is Kevin Bemark from Action Hagens Berman, they aren't going to lose their minds and try to chase back a breakaway. So, we went into this day with Sam needing to ride a really protected race to stay good and in nice position and stay fresh, because the 5th day of the stage race is a doozy. But for me, it's a great opportunity to gain some time to be out in the breakaway.
That's an important point, though, that you are not a GC threat at this point in the stage race. And you can win from a smaller group. So let's talk about how you managed to make your way into a smaller group, because I think that's your strong suit. So I want you to talk me through that. Let's fast forward a little bit.
Totally.
Okay, so we're still really early on in this race, and you've been making your way up towards the front, and I just want you to talk us through, because you seem to find your way into breakaway in a lot of races you compete in. So I just want I want to get your take on how you make that possible.
Well, I mean, for one, let's be clear. I go into breakaways when it's my responsibility. I think it's really important, especially for us on Team Mike's Bikes. We want to go into every race with a plan. And for this, that was the plan, right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're trying to get into a break, the break doesn't find you. you end up having to make some moves. And
You're doing it right now.
Right here, I'm trying to get up to a move that I see going up the road. I'm doing almost 600 watts. Like making a break, whether it's in a big race like this here at Redlands or at a local race, you're gonna have to punch a ticket or two. You're gonna have to light a match wait, do we have any more analogies for? You're gonna have to ride the rivet.
I think I just hit bingo on.
And you're gonna hit bingo. That's the thing. The break doesn't come to you. You kind of have to go seek it out. And so, my responsibility, I had to get to the front. And then I knew that I needed to pay attention and not just follow everything, but pay attention. And in that move right there, there was one of the Landis cycling riders, which Quinn Simmons, who's now on Trek Factory Racing, was up World Tour rider, is up the road, right? Those are the moves that you got to start paying attention to and start thinking about, I need to get to.
Well, that's an interesting thing you brought up because you kind of just glossed right over it, but I think it's worth repeating, which is you weren't looking at just the rider in front of you. You were looking at what was happening at the rider's 5-10 wheels in front of you, and you saw a gap open up, you saw who was up there, and that all happened in an instant, and you realized this is a good time to burn a match. I think a lot of people, especially early on, people just starting racing, they're looking at the wheel right in front of them, and they're focusing on, okay, I need to stay in the draft, and I need to stay on this wheel, and the races might be just getting away from them, or they might be losing an opportunity in front of them. I have a funny little aside, a little anecdote.
Yeah.
There's a group ride we do around here, and a really hard, really fast group ride, and there was a guy wearing this big, it was a camping backpack that was enormous because he was apparently going up to visit his parents, whatever. And I was like, this is a good draft. I'm going to jump on this wheel. So I jumped on his wheel, and yes, it was a good draft, but the weirdest thing happened. It took me 10 minutes to realize this is the worst wheel to be on because he was holding a good power and he was holding the wheel in front of him, but the problem was, and I didn't realize this, like I said, for about 10 minutes, I couldn't see the riders in front of him. And you take that for granted, right? I'm always scanning what's going on in front, and then you can kind of get the rhythm of the road. So what was happening with me is a gap was opening up because I couldn't see the riders in front of him, and then I'd sprint hard to get back up to his wheel, and then I'd be on the brakes because I couldn't see that there was a slowdown in the group. And it's always dynamic, and you're always looking at the riders way up the road, I guess is the point.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much of what racing is. If you're racing just the rider who's in front of you, you miss those opportunities where you can find a hole that you can fit through or where you find the momentum, right? So much of good crit racing and of good racing in general is finding the flow. I think, for me, as I've become an okay racer, I watch guys like Danny Holloway or Justin Williams, the way that they navigate and they
so
surf,
impressive.
They use no energy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to be looking ahead. And so when you're stuck behind that big backpack, you can't see anything. You're just stuck.
And those moments when I was in his draft, it was fantastic, but that was 10% of the time. And meanwhile, while we've been talking, it looks like you're getting counterattacked here, and the breakaway's kind of falling apart.
Right. So let's go ahead and let's go see when the breakaway actually goes.
Because this one
didn't
got caught. Yeah.
All right, Brad, but you know what? As quickly as that goes away, it comes back because they've got a really good access to the reset button when Avolo moves up to the front.
All right, we are not much further in this race, to be honest. We're 4 or 5 minutes later. You've been caught. You maintain your position up towards the front, which sometimes can be really freaking hard.
Oh
to,
yeah, when you've done a big effort and
Yeah.
you get caught, all you want to do is you want to go to the back and just check out what's back there.
Yeah.
Is there ice cream?
But instead you take the front and you're like, hey, if at first you don't succeed,
well, I guess you might as well attack again, right?
Big one.
Just like we were talking about a second ago, I'm trying to look forward, right? If my responsibility is to get in the break, I can't let something go that's going to be dangerous. Otherwise, it just leaves without you. And I see that Alex Hone from Avelo is up the road, and I think it's Zach Neer from, what's he on, 303, I think? But so I think they're cruising up the road, and I realize I have to go. If you don't go now, you're not going to make it. And the other thing too, just right before we went into no man's land here, Action Huggins Berman, who has the race leader, has also taken the front. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to set the pace and make sure that the tempo is high. But they're also going to monitor who goes into the break. They look at me, who's 2.5 minutes down on the overall, and they're like, whatever, who's that chump? Let him go. That's fine. They just don't want someone who's in striking distance of taking their GC overall, right?
So you were aware of who was in the break, and you knew, I'm assuming either of those guys are not threats to the GC. Otherwise, trying to bridge up to an exercise in futility.
Totally, right? Like, if you've got someone that's in the top 10 on the GC and they're up the road and you bridge to them, you know that action is going to shut that down. But right now, we've got a couple of guys that are further down. They're working for other teammates, and this makes for a really good composition of the break. You've got Action, you've got 303, Harley Davidson, now you've got Landis Trek, both that's Quinn Simmons and his teammate right there. We've got a lot of the teams that are already here. We need to make sure that Floyd's is going to get there. We need to make sure that Elevate gets there. But for the most part, we're starting to get all these teams. Now, the other thing that Jeff was making fun of me for here is, what do you call it? The pain dangle?
The pain dangle. This looks so painful to me.
The pain dangle is when you, I guess, punched your own ticket and you're dying, yet you can't go back because your friends will make fun of you. So you just have to keep riding as hard as you can.
And then once you finally close that gap, what often happens is that you get elbowed through. Like, okay, now take a pull. Once you finally close that gap down, take a pull. Like he's just letting a gap open up to his teammate now.
No, I like that.
So
it's fun.
painful.
It's it's clean air. I don't want to breathe his air. That's fine. Again, I think so many people think that making a breakaway, it's just going to come to you, but you're going to have to ride. Whether it's Redlands or your local race. You're going to have to ride really hard for a while to make sure that break settles in. And
you guys still aren't settled in, by the way.
No.
But you've caught those two guys, so now this is the front of the race.
Well, we went right through them. Why didn't we slow down? That seems like the better idea in retrospect. You get to this point, though, where all of a sudden you're going to realize the composition and everybody's going to calm down, and you get in and you settle down to that pace. And that's what you have to get to. You have to kind of get your mind over the mental game of it and make sure that you're not giving up before the break starts to settle in. And I think so many people do that. You have to do it until you get to that point.
It's two parts, right? Like you said, there's that crazy kind of like the who's who. Okay, who's actually going to commit themselves to this break? And then the second part of a breakaway is like you're all basically riding like a team time trial at that point. Everyone who is working is in the rotation, and then you settle into a manageable pace at that point.
Right. Pay attention to the composition. You're looking for what teams are represented. You're looking for who is represented. Are there people that are dangerous that other teams are maybe going to be worried about? And then you've got to actually commit, right? You get up there, and this is the one that I'm going to put all of my eggs in. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you ride this for 5, 10, 20 minutes, or, in a big road race stage, maybe you ride it for, 20, 30 miles, and then you get brought back. But that's part of the game, right? You have to find that composition, and you've got to at some point bet your chips.
Scared money don't make money.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds
smart, doesn't it?
Exactly like what we're talking about.
Let's find out if this works out for you. Let's fast forward a bit. Actually, on second thought, I don't think we have anything to fast forward to, right? Didn't your GoPro run out of batteries?
Well, GoPro ran out of batteries, and we'll spoiler alert this one. Chris
ran out of batteries.
I won the race.
Yeah, just check on Wikipedia.
Go ahead and check Wikipedia.
Actually,
on
second thought, don't.
Yeah.
Just take our word for it. No, what happened in the last lap? Give us like the 30-second.
All right, 30 second in the last lap. We come into the finale, and I think the break was 8 of us.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Somebody has to attack here. Somebody has to go because not everyone in this group is a sprinter. There's a lot of good sprinters here, and there's a lot of guys who are thinking, I'm not going to win this one out of a bunch gallop.
Quinn Simmons attacks with 2 laps to go.
One of the guys who's definitely on the podium is going to be
Quinn Simmons will be the first to
go. Which forces A Velo, Michael Hernandez, and Alex Hone to react. They set a tempo that I didn't actually think was humanly possible.
Absolutely putting them behind the 8 ball here.
And now a Volo has to make a decision. They're going to let Alex Hone do another pull.
And they split the group that we're in, which causes me to cramp.
Hone flogging himself like a rented mule that's due back at 5 o'clock tonight. This kid is giving everything for his team leader, Miguel Hernandez.
Oh, it's about 5:15 in Redlands, California.
All right, now moving up, Eric Bruner doing a good job. He and Granigan, the 2 Buffaloes in this field, sitting right in the middle of that group. So, Brad, they've got a problem, and there he is. Red alert, as we have Quinn Simmons attacking.
This goes one of 2 ways for Quinn Simmons, either really great or really poorly. He is going to win this bike race or die trying solo.
He goes to the whip one more time. This man is a human wattage cottage. There is a lot. Oh, boy, Quinn Simmons now opening up a gap that looks like he's going to take this down to 1 to go. Brad, we got ourselves a Donnybrook going on in Redlands. challenge right now.
Hey, Volo's got to be panicking right now, saying, man, we knew this had to be coming. We knew they didn't want to sprint against Hernandez.
He's got to throw himself on the sword. When you talk about Alex Hone, he is right now going to be the difference maker. He's done it all day. If he can't make this catch, his teammate will not sprint for the win. Miguel Hernandez is relying, he's cracking the whip. Give me a little more from Alex Hone.
I don't know how much more Hone has left in the tank.
I mean, right now, the gauge reads empty, and Hernandez is going to have to go around him here in just a moment as they're not making the catch. This man goes one more time to another level. Unbelievable ride from Quinn Simmons.
Well, everyone knows you can go 10 more miles after your tank says empty, and that's exactly what Quinn Simmons is running on right now.
Bruner coming up and over the top. They couldn't get it done. It looks like Volo getting caught out now. They are in trouble as here we go into the final 1,000 meters of this course. They're 1 kilometer from the finish line.
Gap is coming down for Simmons. Here they come up to the front. He's got about 2 bike lengths back to the group.
Don't look
Volo
back.
is in trouble.
Don't look back, baby. It's all ahead of you now. As Quinn Simmons will go nuclear here. Can he do it? Can he hold on? This is going to take everything the kid's got. They're coming at him like a pack of wolves.
2 more turns, and then they're on to the finishing stretch. Simmons has been caught. They're back together at the front. There's Hone off the back. Anyone's race.
And it's Granigan with Bruner. Eric Bruner on the front. He's going to bring now. Granigan goes up and over.
Well, this was perfectly timed team tactics from Bruner and Granigan here in the light blue jerseys up on the front.
Floyd's Pro Cycling looking for the biggest win in their inaugural season 2019. Who's going to open up the account? Will Granigan have enough? This is the final corner. He's now into the final sprint. Brad, they're all in.
That's going to be another photo finish on the line. Did he go too early? Oh, the bike throw. And Granigan with his hands in the air.
Floyd's Pro Cycling for the
You know what? That's not too bad. Come on. Give me, I'm
So
old.
successful breakaway, pretty good for a Masters rider.
Totally. And I pulled back a minute on the field, so good day.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sharing your footage, Chris.
You bet.
And we'll see you guys at the next one.
They go over a minute on the field, and Granigan seals the deal out of the breakaway. Floyd's Cycling wins the Criterium at Redlands.